Are you sitting down? You better be. Because what I am about to tell you is a literal crime. A financial crime happening in broad daylight. Right in front of our eyes. And the WNBA front office is just standing there holding the bag, smiling, pretending everything is completely normal. It makes me sick. Seriously. Sick to my stomach. We are witnessing the greatest heist in the history of modern sports. No exaggeration. No clickbait. Just cold, brutal facts that nobody on mainstream television has the guts to say out loud. They want you to think this is just a normal rookie season. They want you to smile and clap while they exploit the greatest asset this league has ever seen. But we are not stupid. We can do the math. And the math is an absolute disgrace. $76,000. Let that number sink into your brain for a second. $76,000. That is Caitlin Clark's base salary for her rookie year. A generational talent. A global icon. A player who single-handedly resurrected a basketball league that was basically on life support for 2 decades. Getting paid less than a shift manager at a high-end restaurant. Getting paid less than the guy who sweeps the floors at an NBA arena. Do you know how much Rocky the Mountain Lion makes? Basket for the Denver Nuggets. A guy in a sweaty, furry suit who throws t-shirts into the crowd and occasionally misses a trampoline dunk. $625,000 a year. That again. A mascot makes almost 10 times more than the woman who is currently carrying an entire sports economy on her back. Make it make sense. You cannot. 'Cause it is a mathematical and moral embarrassment. Let's rewind to draft night. April 2024. The energy in that room was electric. You could feel the static through the television screen. The flashing lights blinding everyone. The deafening roar of the crowd when her name was finally called by the Indiana Fever. She walked up to that stage dressed in full Prada. Looking sharp. Looking like a CEO ready to buy out a failing company. What did the WNBA hand her? A piece of paper that insults her true worth before she even laces up her sneakers. The ink on that contract was not even dry yet. And what happened next? The Fanatics website completely crashed. Boom. Just like that. Servers overloaded. Sold out. Every single jersey with the number 22 on the back was gone. Wiped clean from the inventory in less time than it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Millions of dollars in merchandise sales generated in a matter of minutes. Where did that money go? Who is cashing those checks? Because it certainly is not Caitlin. It went straight into the pockets of the WNBA establishment. The same executives who sit in their air-conditioned, walled offices in Manhattan. Sipping their overpriced iced lattes. Smiling smugly for the media cameras. Acting like they're brilliant. Hard-working marketing strategies are the reason attendance is suddenly up. Delusional. Utterly delusional. They couldn't market a bottle of water to a man dying in the desert before she arrived. They were practically giving away tickets for free just to fill the lower bowls of tiny arenas. And now? Now they are charging NBA-level playoff prices for a Tuesday night game in July. And people are paying it. Families are taking out second mortgages just to get a glimpse of her shooting a logo 3. They thought they were just hiring another employee. A rookie who would keep her head down, pay her dues, and stay quiet. They severely miscalculated. Did not import an employee. They imported a hostile CEO who just walked into the boardroom and realized the current directors are completely incompetent. She is the engine. She is the product. She is the only reason the lights are still on in half of these stadiums. Look at the away games. Before Clark, these teams were playing in front of empty bleachers. You could literally hear the players breathing on the court because it was so dead silent. Now, opposing teams are forcefully moving their scheduled games out of their tiny college gyms. They are relocating to massive 17,000-seat NBA arenas. Just to accommodate the massive tsunami of fans coming to see one person. One single person. They are exploiting her star power to save their own bankrupt franchises. And yet, the veterans on those same opposing teams have the audacity to disrespect her. They shove her. They throw cheap elbows when the referees are conveniently looking the other way. They go on podcasts and roll their eyes, claiming that the whole rookie class is responsible for this boom. Pathetic. It reeks of pure, unfiltered jealousy. They want the chartered flights. They want the sold-out crowds. They want the massive national television exposure. But they refuse to acknowledge the golden goose that laid the egg right in front of them. They want the money, but they want to destroy the ATM. And the league lets it happen. The commissioner just sits there in silence, refusing to protect the player who is literally funding their pension plans. It is a betrayal of the highest order. A systemic failure to protect the greatest financial asset they have ever stumbled upon. They expect her to just take the physical beatings on the court, and then take the financial beatings at the negotiating table. Smile for the cameras, Caitlin. Sign these autographs, Caitlin. Make us rich, Caitlin. But do not dare ask for your fair share of the pie. That is the message they are sending. Loud and clear. But here is the thing about being the golden goose. Eventually, you realize you have wings. Eventually, you realize you do not need the farm. The farm needs you. And the clock is ticking on this massive financial heist. Let us talk about the TV rights. The WNBA just signed a media deal worth over $2 billion. $2 billion. Do you honestly believe Disney and Amazon were knocking on their door, offering that kind of cash 2 years ago? Do not make me laugh. They were begging networks to air their games on obscure channels at 2 in the morning. Then number 22 stepped onto the hardwood. Suddenly, everyone wants a piece of the pie. The networks are fighting tooth and nail for broadcasting rights. Sponsors are throwing money at the league like it is raining. And what does Caitlin get from that massive television deal? Nothing. Her salary's locked, capped by a collective bargaining agreement that was signed during the dark ages of the league. A piece of paper designed to keep players poor while the owners get fat. They are stealing her value, extracting every ounce of her cultural capital, and giving her absolute pennies in return. I want you to imagine the sheer level of restraint it takes for her to stay quiet, to sit at those press conferences after a grueling game, sweat dripping down her face, ice packs strapped to her knees because she just spent 40 minutes being targeted by bitter veterans. And she still has to answer dumb questions from reporters who do not respect her. She knows exactly what she is worth. She knows she is the $82 million engine keeping this whole circus running. But the establishment is terrified. They are terrified of the day she finally wakes up and says enough is enough. Because when that day comes, the WNBA as we know it is finished. Let us take a walk outside the arena. Because the real story isn't happening on the hardwood. It is happening in the bank accounts of every single city she visits. Step out onto the cold concrete of the stadium parking lot. Listen to the sound of the city. It is the sound of cash registers violently slamming shut. The endless, rhythmic beeping of credit card scanners. Bars that used to be empty on a rainy Tuesday night are suddenly packed shoulder to shoulder. The smell of spilled draft beer and fried food hanging heavy in the humid summer air. Hotel managers are sitting in their back offices, staring at their booking screens in pure disbelief. Jacked up room rates, triple the usual price. And every single room is sold out. Uber drivers are pulling continuous 12-hour shifts, bumper to bumper in gridlocked traffic, just shuttling fans from the airport to the downtown district. This is not a basketball game. This is a traveling economic stimulus package. $82.5 million. $82.5 million. That is the estimated amount of money injected into consumer spending purely because Caitlin Clark exists in this league. Local economies are literally breathing a sigh of relief when the Indiana Fever bus rolls into town. And yet, look at the mainstream sports networks. Look at the bitter analysts sitting behind their polished glass desks under the harsh studio lights. They look right into the camera and lie to your face. They try to peddle this absurd, manufactured narrative. It is the whole rookie class. Women's basketball is just having a moment. Stop the cap. Right now. Stop lying to yourselves and stop lying to the fans. I respect the other rookies. I really do. But let us be brutally honest for 1 second. Nobody is paying $400 for a nosebleed seat in a sweaty, echoing arena to watch a backup center grab 3 rebounds. They are paying to see the logo 3. They are paying to see the swagger. They are paying to see the generational anomaly. Remove number 22 from the equation. What happens? I will tell you exactly what happens. You do not even have to guess. Because the data proves it. When Caitlin Clark steps off the court and sits on the padded folding chair on the sideline, the magic dies. Instantly. Television viewership drops by a staggering 55%. 55%. More than half of the national audience literally picks up their TV remotes, hits the power button, and walks away. They do not care about the tactical defensive rotations. They do not care about the veterans executing a flawless pick and roll. They care about the golden goose. The moment she is out of frame, the WNBA goes right back to being background noise at an empty sports bar. And the executives know this. The silver-haired commissioners sitting in their luxury corner offices, looking down at the city skyline through tinted windows. They are looking at the exact same spreadsheets I am looking at. They see the spikes. They see the massive cliffs when she goes to the bench. But do they admit it? Of course not. Too busy patting themselves on the back, taking credit for a natural disaster of talent that they had absolutely zero hand in creating. They show up to the draft lottery in their tailored designer suits, smiling for the flashing bulbs of the paparazzi, acting like decades of failed marketing campaigns suddenly worked. You did not do anything, Kathy Engelbert. You just got incredibly, astronomically lucky that a girl from Des Moines, Iowa, decided to pick up a basketball. And how do they repay her for saving their jobs? How do they thank the 22-year-old kid who just handed them a $2 billion television deal on a silver platter? They let the veterans bully her. They let the referees swallow their whistles. And they hand her a paycheck that barely covers the cost of rent in a major metropolitan city. There is a fundamental disconnect here. A disconnect between the tectonic value she generates on a Tuesday night and the pathetic direct deposit that hits her bank account on a Friday morning. Imagine generating $82 million for a corporate entity. You walk into the HR department. You ask for your cut. And they hand you 76 grand and tell you to be grateful you even have a job. You would burn the building down. Metaphorically speaking. You would walk out, start a rival company, and bankrupt them within a month. But Caitlin? She just ties her neon green Nikes a little tighter. She ignores the bruising on her arms. She ignores the scratching on her neck from defenders who cannot keep up with her footwork. She drops another 30-point triple-double. She waves to the screaming little girls holding up cardboard signs in the front row. And she goes back to the locker room in silence. Do not mistake that silence for weakness. Do not mistake her professionalism for compliance. She is observing. She is calculating. Every single flagrant foul. Every single dismissive comment from a jealous veteran. Single time the league uses her face on a billboard but refuses to negotiate her financial security. It is all being logged into her mental hard drive. The WNBA establishment thinks they are playing chess. They think they have her locked into a rigid system, trapped in a rookie-scale contract that strips her of her true market power. But they are playing checkers on a sinking ship. She is the only life raft. We are creeping closer to a breaking point. A financial earthquake that is going to shatter the foundation of this league. Let us zoom in on the physical reality of these games. Have you seen the lines forming outside these arenas? Hours before tip-off. Under the scorching afternoon sun. Thousands of people standing shoulder to shoulder on the blistering asphalt. Scalpers are working the corners, whispering exorbitant prices out of the side of their mouths. A ticket that used to cost $15 is now being flipped for $500. A piece of glossy paper that used to be handed out for free at local grocery stores just to fill empty seats. Now it is a luxury item. A status symbol. The WNBA wants us to believe this is a collective team effort. That the rising tide lifts all boats. Or, the tide lifts all boats. But Caitlin Clark is the damn moon controlling the tide. The other teams are just floating on the water she pulled in. The sheer arrogance of the league's front office to ignore this reality is mind-boggling. They are poking the bear. They are playing a very dangerous, very stupid game of chicken with a player who holds all the cards. They think the media will always be on their side. They think the fans will blindly follow the shield of the WNBA logo. Wrong. The fans do not care about the shield. The fans care about the player. If she decided to sit out tomorrow, what do you think would happen to those 17,000-seat arenas? Dust. Empty plastic folding chairs. The silence would be deafening. You want to know why they actually hate her? Do not listen to the press conferences. Do not read the sanitized PR statements carefully typed out by team assistants on sleek silver MacBooks. Follow the money. Follow the trail of crumpled dollar bills, and it always leads back to 3 letters. CBA. The Collective Bargaining Agreement. Let me paint a physical picture of this document for you. A thick, dusty stack of legal papers sitting in a cold filing cabinet in New York. Signed in 2020. 4 years ago. Which, in the Caitlin Clark timeline, might as well be the Stone Age. Back then, The league was bleeding cash. Nobody was watching. The owners held all the leverage. Sitting comfortably across mahogany tables, sliding this heavy document toward the players. Them to sign it or watch the entire league fold into bankruptcy. The players signed. They locked themselves into a financial prison out of pure, unadulterated desperation. Hard salary caps. Comical revenue sharing thresholds that require the league to see a massive, almost impossible jump in revenue before the players get a single extra dime. A rookie scale designed to pay players the absolute minimum wage legally allowed for a professional athlete. It was a survival pact. A raft made of cheap, leaky plastic. But then, the tornado from Iowa touched down. Suddenly, the league is flush with cash. A $2.2 billion television deal drops from the sky. Amazon Prime, NBC, Disney. Corporate executives in tailored suits are shaking hands, popping champagne bottles in VIP suites overlooking the pristine hardwood court. And the players? The veterans who have been grinding their cartilage into dust for a decade? They are still trapped inside that 2020 document. Are looking at their pathetic paychecks. Then they look across the locker room. They see a 22-year-old rookie pulling up to the arena in a chartered bus, surrounded by screaming, frantic fans. They see her face plastered on 50-foot Nike billboards overlooking Times Square. They see the Gatorade commercials playing on an endless loop on the massive stadium jumbotron. And they snap. The resentment bubbles up in their throats like battery acid. They fought for scraps for 10 long years. They played in front of high school marching bands and empty plastic folding chairs. They took commercial flights, sleeping on the filthy carpet of airport terminals at 4 a.m. waiting for delayed connections. They suffered. So, in their twisted, bitter logic, Caitlin Clark must suffer too. Respect the process. Stay on their podcasts, adjusting their microphones, eyes rolling to the ceiling. Pay your dues. What dues? She paid the dues for the entire league the second she declared for the draft. She paid the rent. She bought the building. Funded the private charter flights that these exact same veterans are currently stretching their legs out on. But the old guard refuses to see it. Instead of thanking her, they throw elbows. Check her into the hardwood floor. They step on her sneakers when the referee is conveniently looking at the shot clock. It is petty. It is embarrassing. But it is rooted in deep, systemic financial trauma. Taking their anger at the billionaire owners out on the one player who actually has the power to destroy those owners. Take a closer look at that locker room dynamic. Walk through those heavy steel doors. Breathe in the air. It smells like icy hot medical tape and quiet, seething resentment. You can hear the sharp, aggressive sound of athletic tape being ripped off a roll. With ugly surgical scars crisscrossing their knees are strapping on heavy, mechanical braces. They look over their shoulders. They watch the camera crews hounding the 22-year-old in the corner. The black microphone shoved in her face. Flashing LED lights of the DSLR cameras reflecting off the cold concrete walls. And the veterans grit their teeth. Feel completely invisible. After bleeding on these courts for a decade, they are suddenly relegated to being uncredited extras in the Caitlin Clark reality show. So they lash out. Commit hard fouls that go way beyond regular basketball plays. They aim for the ribs. They aim for the fragile ankles. It is a physical manifestation of a financial grievance. They cannot punch the owners in the face. So they punch the golden goose instead. It is misplaced aggression. It is a tragedy of the working class fighting amongst themselves while the executives sit in the luxury boxes drinking perfectly chilled Pinot Noir. And the WNBA front office? Watch these physical assaults on the court. They see her getting knocked down repeatedly. They see the dark purple bruises forming on her arms. And what do? They look away. They refuse to upgrade the flagrant fouls. They refuse to suspend the enforcers. Why? Because drama sells. Conflict sells. Squeezing every last drop of engagement out of her physical suffering. They are monetizing the bullying. They legally clipped the videos of her getting shoved to the floor. They posted on their official social media accounts. Watch the engagement metrics skyrocket in real time. Millions of views. Thousands of angry comments. Algorithm feeds on the raw rage of the fans. And the league quietly cashes the advertising check. It is a sick, twisted cycle of corporate exploitation. They are renting her body and her star power for pennies. while actively encouraging a toxic environment that could end her career with one bad landing. They are playing Russian roulette with an $82 million asset. And the chamber is not empty. Every time she drives aggressively to the basket, the entire financial future of the league hangs in the balance. One twisted ankle, one torn ACL caused by a jealous veteran's cheap shot, and the entire house of cards collapses onto the floor. The television executives at Amazon and Disney would be on the phone within seconds, screaming, demanding immediate renegotiations. Funding. Because they did not pay $2 billion to watch a bunch of bitter veterans shoot airballs in an empty, silent gym. They paid for the magic. They paid for the logo 3. And the WNBA is reckless enough to let that magic get beaten into the ground on a nightly basis. All because they are too cowardly to stand up to the old guard. They are legally allowed to broadcast her likeness to millions of homes and charge advertisers astronomical rates for 30-second commercials during her games. But they are legally protected from paying her a fair share of that revenue. Because of that dusty 2020 document. But here is the absolute kicker. Here is the part that keeps the WNBA commissioner staring at the ceiling in a cold sweat at 3 in the morning. The players have an opt-out clause. By November 1st, the players' union can officially rip up that CBA. They can choose to terminate it, setting the stage for a brutal, bloody negotiation. It is a ticking time bomb resting right in the middle of that mahogany desk. Tick, tick, tick. The owners are terrified. And they should be. What happens if the ATM machine suddenly decides to shut down? Panic. Pure, unadulterated, catastrophic panic. Let us run a little hypothetical simulation. Imagine a Tuesday night in July. The Indiana Fever are scheduled to play a heavily promoted, nationally televised game. But number 22 decides she has finally had enough. She does not lace up her neon green sneakers. She does not board the team's chartered flight. She stays in Indianapolis, sitting on her couch, watching the absolute chaos unfold from a distance. Happens to the WNBA in that exact moment. Collapse would be instantaneous. The red recording lights on the massive ESPN broadcast cameras snap off. The heavy production trucks parked in the stadium loading docks quietly roll up their thick black cables, start their engines, and drive away. The 17,000-seat arena? Suddenly, it looks like an empty cavern. You can hear the sharp squeak of rubber soles echoing off the cold concrete rafters again. The silence returns. Then, the phones start ringing in the league office. On-prime executives staring at their live viewer metrics plummeting like a stone dropped down a bottomless well. They pick up the heavy black office phones. They dial the commissioner's private number. We paid $2 billion for the girl from Iowa. Where is she? They want their money back. The league thinks they have power because they control the disciplinary committee. They slap her with a technical foul for showing a fraction of emotion on the court. They type out a formal letter, slide it into a white envelope. Her a few $100. A few $100. It is comical. Do they even realize who they are dealing with? Open her financial briefcase. Look at the heavy, glossy legal document sitting right next to her pathetic WNBA rookie contract. Nike. $28 million. Signed. Sealed. Delivered. Gatorade. State Farm. Panini America. She is sitting on a mountain of corporate endorsements that dwarfs the entire salary cap of multiple WNBA franchises combined. She does not need the league's $76,000. That is not even pocket change to her. That is a rounding error on her accountant's spreadsheet. She is playing in this league purely because she loves the physical game of basketball. But love has a breaking point. And when the systemic disrespect outweighs the passion, dynamic completely flips. The old guard wants her to be the victim. They want her to look defeated when she gets shoved violently out of bounds, her shoulders slamming into the heavy wooden courtside chairs. They want to see her break down. They are completely misreading the room. She is not the victim. She is the boss quietly assessing the loyalty of her employees before the annual corporate review. Every time a referee blows a phantom whistle against her, it's just adding another line item to her leverage sheet. Every time a bitter veteran takes a cheap shot at her ribs, she is calculating the exact financial cost she will extract at the negotiating table. Let us talk about the nuclear option. She actually has one. And it terrifies the establishment. What if she decides she does not need the WNBA shield to play professional basketball? What if she just walks away? Imagine the scenario. Caitlin Clark announces an independent barnstorming tour. She bypasses the league entirely. She rents out the United Center in Chicago. She invites 11 other players who actually respect the game. Players who want to get paid millions instead of pennies. They stream the game independently on YouTube. What happens? She sells out the arena in 3 minutes. Live stream hits 10 million concurrent viewers. The merchandise booths are stripped bare before the first quarter even ends. And the WNBA? They are left playing in an empty gym in Connecticut, broadcasting to an audience of 3,000 people on a local tape delay. She has the unprecedented power to single-handedly dismantle the entire monopoly of the women's basketball establishment. She holds the detonator. And the league executives are sweating through their tailored suits. Praying to God she never realizes her finger is resting right on the red button. But she knows. Look at her eyes during the post-game press conferences. The harsh glare of the studio lights. They are cold. They are calculating. She answers their patronizing questions with a polite, yet trained smile. But underneath that smile is a ruthless business acumen. She knows that the November opt-out deadline for the collective bargaining agreement is approaching like a runaway freight train in the dark. Veterans think the upcoming CBA negotiation is going to be a normal, polite meeting. They think they are going to sit around a large oak table in a fancy New York high-rise, pass around bottles of sparkling water, adjust their collars, and politely ask the billionaire owners for a slight bump in the revenue-sharing percentage. Fools. Absolute fools. It is not going to be a negotiation. It is going to be a hostage situation. The players' union will walk into that boardroom. The heavy wooden doors will click shut. And all they have to do is slide one single piece of paper across the polished table. A piece of paper that says, "Give us exactly what we are worth." Caitlin Clark goes home. Checkmate. The owners will have absolutely no counter-move. Their $2 billion television deal evaporates into thin air. $82 million local economic stimulus? Gone. The massive influx of casual fans who are currently buying up $400 tickets just to take a blurry iPhone video of her warming up. They will delete the WNBA app from their phones and never look back. The leverage is absolute. Unprecedented in the history of modern sports. Michael Jordan needed the NBA to build his global brand. Tiger Woods needed the PGA Tour to legitimize his dominance. Caitlin Clark does not need the tour. She is the tour. She is the broadcast. She is the entire ecosystem. Wrapped up in a number 22 jersey. Heavily guarded by the sheer force of basic economics. They think they own her because of a piece of paper. A thin, flimsy sheet of white paper with a cheap black ink signature at the bottom. That is the illusion of control the WNBA establishment is currently clinging to like a life raft in a hurricane. The dust finally settles on this chaotic season. When the heavy oak doors of the commissioner's office in New York City swing open next year, Caitlin Clark is not just going to sit down and politely ask for a raise. She is going to walk in, slide that outdated contract across the polished mahogany wood, and forcefully buy the entire league. Metaphorically? Maybe. Financially? Absolutely. Let us synthesize the brutal reality of this situation one last time. Look at the dark purple bruises she has been nursing on her ribs since May. Look at the angry red scratch marks running down her arms from bitter veterans who physically cannot defend her without committing a borderline assault. Look at the gray-shirted referees staring blankly into space, swallowing their plastic whistles while the greatest financial asset in women's sports history gets hip-checked into the hardwood. Now, weigh that physical abuse against the $76,000 direct deposit hitting her bank account. And then, weigh that pathetic salary against the $82.5 million she single-handedly injected into local city economies. Weigh it against a $2 billion television deal she secured just by stepping onto the court. The math does not just look bad. Criminal. It is a systemic, calculated robbery that is rapidly approaching its explosive expiration date. The old guard is completely blind. They are standing directly on the steel train tracks, staring blankly at the blinding headlights of the oncoming freight train, and complaining about the loud noise. Keep throwing those cowardly elbows in the paint when the cameras pan away. Keep finding the 22-year-old girl who literally bought the stadium you are currently standing in. Exactly how that works out for your pension plans when the collective bargaining agreement is shredded into confetti in late 2025. Because when the private chartered flights suddenly disappear, when the massive Amazon Prime production trucks pack up their heavy black cables and leave the loading docks forever, when the crowds shrink back down to 300 bored people eating stale popcorn on a freezing Tuesday night in Connecticut, you will look around the empty, cavernous gym. You'll hear the sharp squeak of your own sneakers echoing off the cold concrete walls. The deafening silence will return. You'll remember exactly who you chased away with your petty jealousy. This isn't just about a basketball player wanting a bigger paycheck. It is a hostile takeover of a fundamentally broken financial system. This is a complete and utter revolution. She is tearing down the old establishment, pulling it apart brick by heavy brick. She is exposing the sheer incompetence of a front office that relies on her blood, sweat, tears to fund their luxury lifestyles, while offering her zero protection in return. They thought they could control the narrative. They thought they could deploy their media puppets to protect the veterans and push the historic class of 2024 propaganda on national television. But the fans are not stupid. See the raw, unfiltered numbers. We see the massive sections of empty plastic seats when she sits on the bench. We see the catastrophic ratings drops. The Caitlin Clark effect is not a cute little trend that you can manage with a PR statement. It is a financial tsunami. You either ride the wave, or you drown in the dark water. The WNBA establishment is currently choosing to drown. They are actively choosing petty, locker room jealousy over generational wealth. But the clock is ticking. The leverage is shifting by the second. And the ultimate revenge won't even happen on the basketball court. It will happen in the cold, silent boardroom. When she forcefully rewrites the financial destiny of this entire league. She will not just elevate herself. She will drag the rest of these ungrateful players kicking and screaming into the future. Whether they like it or not. They will cash their million-dollar checks in 2026. And they will have to look in the mirror and swallow their pride, admitting that a 22-year-old kid from Iowa paid their mortgages. That is the bitter truth. That is the terrifying reality of the $82 million engine. You are riding with the revolution. If you are sick and tired of the establishment disrespecting the only reason this league is relevant, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and let me know exactly what you think she should demand when she rips up that contract. Because this financial war is just getting started. You do not want to miss what happens when the golden goose finally decides to snap.